5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening. This is Jeff, Junior Hockey Advisor, ready to get rolling. Sorry, I left the window that I look out here open, and a car was going by just as I was speaking. I was trying to figure out where everybody was at. Hey, it's a great night to be discussing hockey. This is the Junior Hockey Advisor. My name is Jeff. Been doing this for over 30 years as an owner, as a Division III coach of a now Division I program, as a general manager, as a junior coach, as a U18, 16, 14 girls coach. Been doing this at all different levels for a very long time. Master certified coach through USA Hockey. But what I'm here to do is to answer questions and try to help with the process. What we discuss here is not who's the best team, who's the best coach, what's going to happen over here. We don't try to figure out which coach is going to get fired. It's not like a talk show that you listen to on AM radio. What we do here is try to work on the process and work on what we can do to help explain how things work to get from the 14, the 15, and 16 levels to the junior levels. How do you get from U18 to the USHL? How do you get from junior hockey into college hockey? And remember, there's 3 different levels of college hockey: Division I, Division III, and club hockey. But we're going to get to all of that and a lot more. We got a ton of things to talk about, so let's get rolling. All right, our little intro. I got to get those refreshed and get those updated. I think we've been using them a lot, are using them too much and kind of getting stale. Hey, look, we started this right before the pandemic. We've grown this audience in huge numbers thanks to you, the people that are watching this, the people that are part of our discussion group, people that are part of our Junior Hockey Advisor Facebook page, people that have friended me over the last 6 months, 8 months. It's turned into an incredible family to share information. And what's great about it now is a lot of times I don't really respond to questions on the discussion page, maybe a little bit of steering, but I let the audience, I let the group, the discussion group actually answer questions. And you're phenomenal. The knowledge base is there. And don't forget, if you haven't participated in our Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, we've got, they might not tell you they're there, but we've got junior coaches at all levels. We've got junior general managers and owners at all levels. I'm talking about people that are on the board of directors for the BCHL, general managers from the USHL, from the NCDC, from you name the league, the North American Hockey League. They're all there. Not all of them. There's participation from all those different leagues. And when you discuss things, it does stir the pot a little bit. When you bring up a good topic and when you bring up a good discussion, if it's something that they as a group or as a junior coaches, as owners, as general managers need to do to fix things, believe me, this group has actually started, we become our own little activist group in a way, and not in a controversial way, but we're helping how we can here. And it's all because of how you are going about things, because you've made this a great, great group. We've got 3 things I want to discuss tonight. First of all, I want to start with the NCAA. And I want to just kind of go through this dead period thing again that's been extended through April, so everybody understands the dead period. Basically, what this means is the coaches are not out in the field recruiting. The coaches are not allowing, or coaches are not allowed to have students on campus. It doesn't mean you can't go visit the campus. It means you can't be invited to the campus by the coaching staff. So if the rink's open and you go to the rink and you watch a practice, that's still on you. You can do that. It's not stopping or hindering you from doing anything, but it is stopping them from reaching out to you or making contact with you. But what this led into, and I wanted to make sure we just kind of cleared that up. The other thing is, I don't think I was clear enough the other day. We were discussing how this period worked, and especially how it affected the 2000 class. Now, this is the group of kids that are all 20. Now, in normal years, if a kid turned 21, let's say, because you can be 20 up until December 31st. So let's say I'm a player and I'm playing in the USHL, and on January 1st I turn 21. Well, if I don't want to lose that year of eligibility, I enroll into the school that I'm committed to, and even if I redshirt the rest of that year, I'm there and I'm starting my college career. And you'll see that quite a bit. Johnstown, I think, had 2 players in the North American Hockey League last year that were in that case. The NCAA has given the 2000 class the ability to not have to go to college right after December 31st and start into that January semester. They now can actually participate with juniors all the way through the rest of the year. So I don't know if I clarified that enough. I wanted to just make sure we discussed that a little bit, and that became a little bit clearer for you as we moved on. So I want to get that off the chest there to make sure I got that done. So I posted it up as we were going through, and let me see if I can pull it back up here or not. The question of the week. And by the way, last week, great discussions. Thanks for keeping it positive on the discussion group. We had some great discussions about a lot of things, and it was phenomenal. We're getting lots and lots of people on the groups. But I wanted to share this with you. This was from Dave. Dave in Colorado is the de facto producer of the show now. He's always making sure that we've got content. He's always making sure he's asking provocative questions. And, not only for his own interest, but it's also for to keep the show going, to keep this rolling, to keep this thing, alive. And I appreciate it. And I wanted to shout out both to Dave, and I also wanted to give a shout out to Andrew Yarma too. I've had so many people in contact over the weekend, and just haven't had a chance to get back to everybody the way I wanted to. I apologize. I promise I'll get back to everybody this week that has asked, and we'll get moving on with that. But getting back up to the question, with COVID limiting players and teams' ability to attend tournaments and showcases such as the NAPHL or NAPL event showcases in Pittsburgh or in Blaine, Minnesota next month, coupled with a lot of rinks turning off live barns, that just drops off automatically. How is a player going to get noticed for the next season? How is the NAHL, the BCHL, and the NCDC, how are they going to scout players? And that's a phenomenal question. I think that could be the question that's going to take a lot of time to just walk through and sift through this. Let's start off with what you can do and where you're at. I saw some of the comments that were coming up on the discussion group, and one thing is, we don't all have to agree on all this, but I want to make sure that we understand that this is not a coaching issue when it comes to recruiting and promoting players right now. There's only so much your U16 coach can do. There's only so much your U18 coach can do. And there's only so much your junior coach can do. And so people were saying, oh, yeah, the coaches just need to send out videotape. Well, yeah, maybe. The coaches only have to reach out to colleges. I can tell you right now that in the North American Hockey League, first of all, we're going to see record numbers of Division I commitments from the North American Hockey League this year. We may see for the first time in a very, very long time some Division I commitments coming from outside of the North American Hockey League. Now, when I say outside there, we already know about the BCHL. We already know about the USHL. The USHL this year, I just pulled up Muskegon right before the show started. I think they've only got 2 players that are not committed on the roster. Pull up if you go to social media, go to Facebook or go to Twitter, you can pull up and look at things like, Muskegon's roster, and they actually have their game sheet on there. And it was amazing. It's this commitment, and it's always high in the USHL going into the season, but not that high. And especially Muskegon has not been known for a team that's loaded going into a year. They've always had their share, but then you look, and I think I mentioned this last week. Last year, if you go down a league, because the USHL is the Tier 1 and the North American Hockey League is the Tier 2, and you look at the last place team in the North American Hockey League, The top teams in the North American Hockey League last year, were anywhere from 8 to 12 commitments, Division I commitments, maybe averaging 9, 10, across the board. That's the top 4 or 5 teams. The last place team had one that they traded for mid-season, late season, that they picked up. In fact, 3/4 of the way through, right before the trade deadline, they picked up one Division I commitment. That same team, which is Odessa, I think they have 5 or 6 on the roster starting the year off. And that was the last place team. And that's the way the league has changed. So when I say there's going to be record numbers in the North American Hockey League, it's because there's a saturation point with the USHL. There's not a lot of room for coaches, Division I coaches, to be looking at that league. And remember, we lost half of our players that were in the BCHL. It came back, the American players. Let me clarify that. There's still going to be a lot of Canadian players that are great players coming from the BCHL that'll go NCAA Division I. However, half of the Americans that were up there did not go up there. So that pushed into our pool of players at the Tier 1 ranks, the USHL, and pushed into the North American Hockey League, and just a very small sliver into the NCDC. So what this has done is it's put college coaches in a position where the North American Hockey League is de facto going to be the league to look at, because that's where all the potential is at. That's where all the pool of players is going to be this year compared to years past. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see what the numbers are, but I'm predicting that we'll see a lower number in the BCHL only because of what they lost with the Americans. I don't think the Canadian numbers will drop off in the BCHL for commitments. I don't think the USHL has much room this year for commitments because they're top heavy on kids that are already committed. So you'll see that number maybe look like it's dropping off, and it's not dropping off because the talent's not there. It's dropping off because the talent's already there and they're not they're already committed. So that really leaves the North American Hockey League. And when I say outside of the North American Hockey League, you might see 2 things happen. You might see a push for the OJHL, CCHL, in maybe even into the AJ numbers and into the Manitoba numbers, all contingent on how their seasons play out. But since they're not up and running the same way some of the American leagues are, probably not. Probably the winner outside of the North American Hockey League is going to be the NCDC. And, you can say what you want about it, plus or minus on the NCDC. Normally it's 1 or 2 teams. It's always the top of the rosters, top of the heap is always, the New Jersey Hitmen as far as their amount of commitments. Then it's the Junior Bruins and, some other programs that are right there with them. Not right there with them, usually a notch below, and then the rest of the league. You rarely see any commitments beyond that. But remember, that league usually gets their commitments from other places. The kids come in with their commitments to that league more so than the other leagues. Fresh commitments for the NCDC for the last couple of years, last 2 or 3 years, have been double digits and single digit numbers. Now hear what I'm saying on that. Fresh commitments for kids that don't have a commitment now, they're playing in the NCDC. Before the season ends, they get a commitment. Those numbers are not very high. This year, that number might jump, and it might jump because of the fact that we've seen this push down in contraction. Contraction in the USHL, contraction in the North American Hockey League, and the extremely slow start in the BCHL, which forced players to come back down to the United States. Didn't force them. Some options were made there, and some of them were forced because the travel, either a personal choice to travel or the ability to get to and from Canada was hindered in some way. And then so across the board, this is going to be very fascinating to see how this plays out. So getting back to Dave's question of what you do and how you go about this. First of all, if you're at 16 or 18, I've laid out a tool for you. Take advantage of it. I put out, and it's still out there. I opened it back up again. I'm going to try to grab this here and throw it up there. Please get up there. Okay. Reaching your ultimate hockey goals, how to kickstart your hockey journey. It's free. It's free, but it's a template. I laid it out for you and it's there to help you as a family, as players, coaches, general managers, whatever level you're at. It's a guidebook of how to set yourself up to be successful, and it uses the part of it. Many of I'm an MBA. I have a master's in education too, but I worked on my PhD in a combination of education and business. Didn't finish it. I got a little bit to go on it yet. But what that did was it opened up the door to trying to come up with some systems and processes on the thought process of how this whole process works. And what I mean by that is I've taken a lot of things that you may know from the business world and rolled it into this. So we talk about SWOT analysis. We talk about triangulation as far as building teams around you. It's a fascinating piece if you have not, put it into the terms of this is a business. If you look at the whole recruiting process, now colleges and junior teams on their side, they all think of it as a business. But a lot of times, if you're getting to the point where you're going to play in one of the top junior leagues, or you're getting to the point where you're going to play college hockey, if you're not looking at this like it's a business, maybe you should rethink that a little bit and think about it from a business prospect, like you're a prospect in the business world. And I say that because you can't go in without your guns a-blazing. I say that. I don't want that to sound like you're trying to get a conflict going with whatever college or junior team, but you have to have your ammo. You have to have all your tools in place to fight the battle of recruiting. You're competing against left. You're competing against right. You're competing against the clock. You're competing against a lot of things, including usually a young man that emotionally is going like this, and the maturity and hormones and all those things are going on. So there's a lot of things that a parent has to worry about, or a coach has to worry about. But here's a couple of things that seminar does. It helps you set up a team of people that you surround yourself with to help you. You need a team. That team could be your current coach, a former coach. It could be your skill instructor. In some cases, some of you will actually reach out and get an advisor. That's your choice. You need a team, though, around you. Even if you have an advisor, you still need a team. You need to have that U18 coach and that U16 coach still working with you. And everybody needs to be, and especially in this time, everybody needs to be on the same message. So it sounds like it's a simple process, and it sounds like, oh, that's really easy. But you can have just as much damage done in the recruiting process by somebody that doesn't understand how important they are, how important what they say happens. Recently, a season or two ago, I know of a player that was a Division I committed player doing a great job, and one of the people that were on the outside and not part of the team made a comment to the coach that was taken the wrong way. He wasn't on message. The school revoked the scholarship, or at least amended the scholarship situation for the player. Now, you can't control all that, but you try to control as much as you can. Get everybody on the same message. And what do I mean by the same message? The same message means taking the time to have a conversation with, let's say your former U16 coach. Hey, Bob, we appreciate everything you did as a coach. Hey, if anybody talked to you, what would you say about my son? How would you approach it, and what would you say? And you get his feedback, and you say, that's great. That's exactly the message we want. We're trying to really limit this to really, some bullet points. He's really good in the corners. He's really good around the net. Got a great attitude. Just 2 or 3 things that become the bullet point. That 30-second message that you hear about, the elevator pitch. You want the coaches to try, and you can help steer this. Your advisor can help steer this. You need to build that around you so that when the coaches are talking, they're hearing the same message, so that by the time that coach does get a chance to see you play or watch video, he's already got some things built into his head. Hey, that kid's really good in the corners. They say this kid is really good in front of the nets. He's got a great attitude. Just boom, boom, boom. Or he's greased lightning. He's fast. It doesn't matter what the message is, but we really need to take and make sure we built a good team around us. The other part of this process, probably one of the most important things right now, is get away from the dream killers. Stay away from the people that don't want to be on the positive side of all this. There is potential to play at a higher level, just like there was potential before. Just because there's contraction in the leagues and the leagues are more powerful right now, doesn't mean that there's less opportunity to play college hockey. We just had more college teams added. Well, first of all, we had Alabama, Huntsville, that wasn't going to be a program. They're back. We had Long Island added. We had the new Minnesota team that's starting next year. You know, there's opportunities that are opening up, and you can say, yeah, but some of these kids, they're not gonna. They can stay one more year. I explained that last year. That might come into play for a small percentage, but it's not going to be as big as a percentage as you think. If remember, so only so many college players, Division I college players, go on to play pro. And if I'm not on that path to go play pro and I'm a senior and I'm going to graduate, I'm going to graduate. I had my fun with hockey. Thank you very much. Now it's time to move on, regardless if I have the ability to play one more year or not. So it's just like, I want to leave it at that because I think that's important. So the dream killers, and what can a dream killer do? The dream killer can be anybody. It's the naysayer. It's the ones that's looking for all the Eeyore donkey stuff, the things that aren't going well right now about this whole process. Let them do their thing. If people want to be out there and they don't want to be a part of the positive process to go through the recruiting, okay. That just makes it easier for you. So let the naysayers do their thing. But don't be on the complaining side of this. Find a way. You still have to do the same things you've always done. You still have to send out emails. You still have to text coaches if you've got the ability to text them. If you don't, that's fine. You still have to get a video out on YouTube, a small video, a 30-second video, 45-second video of just the highlights. And those highlights have to match the message. So if you are a defensive player and you've only scored 3 goals in the last 2 years, those 3 goals should not be the emphasis of your video. Okay, the emphasis of your video has got to be what the messages you're trying to send. I'm great in the corners. I'm great in front of the net. I'm great defensively. Whatever they are, that has to be the message that shows up in your video. The video has to be out there on YouTube. Don't try to do anything more than that, because that link for a 30 or 45-second video spurs conversation. It spurs enough for a coach. They don't need to see 2 hours of video. They don't need to see full games unless they ask. And in most cases, there's archived videos on Hockey TV that they can grab if they want to see more than that. So I hope that helps a little bit. But the question that Dave asked, what can you do? You got to be positive and you got to be proactive. That's most. You got to get the people that want to be the Debbie Downers in this. And if anybody named Debbie's listening, that's a phrase. I'm not picking at anybody. But don't jump into the side of this is the worst thing in the world. Everybody's dealing with it. So if people want to say, I can't get anywhere now, let them say that. Let them step off the stairway to the next level. Let them wait and see what happens. You keep plowing forward. You keep trying to get to the next level, and you keep working on the things you need to work on. Talking to your current coaches, talking to your former coaches, talking to your power skater instructor. If you play on a spring team, I've emphasized this so much. If you play spring hockey and you're in that 15 to 19-year-old category, and you're playing in the Beantown, you're playing in the Boston showcases, you're playing in the Detroit showcases, you're playing in the Toronto showcases, not tournaments, showcases that are recruited, you got to use that coach that you have. A lot of these coaches are well connected now. We've talked about this. I talk about this in that seminar too. Grab that. You can go on the website, the Junior Hockey Advisor website. You can click on reaching your ultimate goals. It will help you. It will make a big difference for you across the board. So, Dave, I hope that helps a little bit. Before I get on the next topic, let's just see if we've got anything interesting going on with people. Wow, Ken Bender's back on. We haven't seen Ken in a while. Renee's on. I think Renee's coming from Grand Blanc. Jeannie's on from Flint. Kara's on. Good to see you, Kara. Let's see who we've got. New Hampshire on. Perry's on. Can you go from club hockey to Division I or hockey, Division I or higher? I'm assuming you mean Division I. So Perry, Give me a little more clarification. You mean club hockey from a youth side, or you mean club hockey like ACHA college club hockey? I'll be glad to answer that. Give me throw something in the notes or in the remarks there, and I'll try to help out. Happy Sunday to you too, Brendan. Good to see you. Mark's on. Steven's coming in from Scottsdale. They're back and forth from Detroit, back and forth from Muskegon. Good to see you on, Steven. Rob's on from Chicago. What a great group. Okay, so thank you, Perry. I see this on here now. Can you go from a club team to Division III or higher, or is juniors a better choice? Great question. A couple things. One is, if you go into a club team, it depends on what level. ACHA college club hockey has 3 levels. They have a Division I, a Division II, and a Division III. It has nothing to do with the NCAA. The NCAA, college club hockey, is totally separate from the NCAA. Usually it's pay to play at all 3 levels, meaning even though you're going to college to play on their club team, it's usually you're paying a fee to play on that team. Now, some schools, that fee's very, very minimal, and some schools, that's just like playing travel hockey. You're paying the same amount as you did when you played travel. But the level of competition is extremely varied depending on what level you're at. If you're playing at the Tier 1 ACHA level, there's some darn good teams out there, and there's some darn good hockey. Now, some people say, oh, they can blow away they're just as good as Division I teams. No, they're not. No, let's get that out of your thought process right away. Do they have players are there some players out there that are Division I talent that are playing club hockey? Absolutely. For whatever reason, just like there's a football player or a basketball player that it didn't work out for them at the Division I ranks and they're playing club or they're playing at some other level. Same thing happens in hockey. So you will see some great players playing there. But the level is still not at the NCAA level consistently across the board. You go to Tier 2, it's still a very competitive range, but the Division II, I should say, a range falls into anything from high school players to some youth players, meaning they played U16, U18, travel. You start getting some AA players and some middle level, and then you get into the Division III, and the talent is a little bit more on the participation level. So not all, there's some good Division III teams and there's some great Division II teams too. So don't take that as the gospel that every team is chocked full of AA players. No, not at all. And they do recruit USPHL Premier. They do recruit some null. They'll get some null players, very few. Once in a while, you'll see a USHL player for whatever reason that's going to play club hockey. And it's usually not because that was their first choice. It's usually because something happened in their personal life that changed their career path. But can you jump from there to Division III? Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you jump from there to Division I? It's happened. I had one of my players that played for what is equivalent to the premier level. No, it'd be equivalent. Our team at the time is what the NCDC is now. It was our EGHL team. Played on our EGHL team, went to Western Michigan on the club team, and the next season he was one of the starting players on their Division I team. So absolutely can happen. You can make that move. It's not a highly recruited avenue. Sometimes it's timing. You're at the right place. Sometimes kids will take the chance. They'll say, look, I really want to go to whatever school. I really want to go to Ohio State. And I'm a pretty darn good hockey player. I played at a very high level. I'm going to go to this school because I want to go there. I'm going to go on the club team, and I'm going to try out for the varsity team too. Happens all the time. Rarely does it pan out, but it does. It does. So not really a path that's recruited, not really a path that is looked at as an avenue, but you can go that way, Perry, and it does happen. So, Greg, great to see you on from Ontario. Jacob, wow, good to see you, Jacob. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My wife and I are going to be in North Carolina next Friday for 2 weeks. Going to be down that way. So, Stephen C. back on there. Mike Lapani from Rochester, New York. He's on there, and he says, how will there be as many college spots open next year with kids returning to school to play again? Well, once again, we just covered that, Mike. It's a great question, but just because you have the option to return next year doesn't mean you're going to return for that extra year. In other words, remember, most kids that are playing NCAA Division I and Division III hockey are there and playing hockey, but that's where their hockey's going to end. 90%, don't quote me exactly, but let's use the figure 90%. 90% of those players, they go on to the business world. They go on to the graduate world, their graduate degree programs. They go somewhere else after their college hockey's done. So if I have the ability to graduate next year and I'm looking forward to getting out and getting a job, or I'm looking forward to moving on, I'm probably not going to stick around. I'm not saying that's the case, but the coaches that I've talked to so far, and I didn't poll all programs. I didn't go to 61 coaches, but I've had 4 or 5 conversations over the last few weeks about this. They're not anticipating huge numbers of players to take advantage of that on the top end. Now, they expect all of their younger players, if their programs are shut down, to take advantage of that, or even if they played this year, to take advantage of that, but not all. So, that is part of it. But remember, we also have expansion. We've had Long Island come in. We have the new Minnesota program coming in. There's more opportunities next year than there's ever been at the Division I level. So, yes, there's going to be players, but not as many as you think, at least at this point. Now, once again, this is all speculation on conversations I've had. I can't tell you what the gospel is going to be on this. Nobody can. So we have to really see how this plays out. But if I were a player and I've had 3 good years and this is my senior year and it's not going exactly the way I thought, and I choose to stick around and we're still in this fog of the pandemic, boy, oh boy, I don't know if I really want to stick around, with the chance that it's going to be delayed again, with the chance that my season is going to be 15, 20 games versus, 30 games. If everything goes the way it did this year, I don't think you're going to see as many players that want to stick around for that. So I hope that helps. And once again, Mike, you know a lot about hockey. You know that this could change in a heartbeat. But a great question on that. Peter from Chicago, thanks for checking in. Robert says, how do you handle Division I coach of several, let me try to read this again. How do you handle one coach of several of your players who has absolutely cut him off at the knees because of his own personal demons? How does that player avoid that coach from his future? That's a great question. So you got a coach that, for whatever reason, has taken a dislike to your player or somebody on the team. And what can you do about that? Well, first of all, as much as that's a painful situation, and almost everybody that's been through hockey has experienced that coach that doesn't see eye to eye with them. As a player, as an assistant coach, as a general manager, whatever your role is in hockey, you've always ran across that coach that you just don't see eye to eye. As a parent, you might have that coach that you just don't see eye to eye with. You don't agree with them. They don't like you because of the way you smile. You don't know. But if it's happening with you, it's most likely happening with a lot of people. So instead of trying to fight that situation and fight that coach, you just be you. You just do your thing and move on. Move on. If you're on that team and you can't get off that team and you can't avoid it, that's when you got to put your head down, work hard, keep your mouth shut, and do nothing to upset the apple cart as a parent or as a player. And that's very tough. I with my own kids, back when my kids were in youth hockey, yes, absolutely, both of them. And my daughter is, she's an angel. She's an angel. But she found a coach one time that just could not see eye to eye with her. My daughter says left, the coach says right. My daughter, dumps the puck in because she was told to dump it in, and the coach yells at her because he wanted her to carry the puck in. It doesn't matter. The point of the matter is that she ran across the conflict. First of all, it's a great learning lesson, and I hate to put it in those terms, but yes, when you look back at it and you learn how to deal with these conflicts in the long run, they're great. But if you're having a problem with that coach, there's a good chance that everybody above him knows what he's like. And they're probably not going to hold it against you if you're not the problem, but you just happen to be the one that's in the target. And it happens all the time. You hear about that all the time with players that are being recruited. They're playing, a kid's playing for a junior team or he's playing for a UA team. And the U18 coach just doesn't really have the time for him, or the junior coach, just wants to trade him or did trade him or whatever the case may be and doesn't have anything nice to say about the kid. And you'll talk to the guys at the college level and they'll go, hey, well, that's that coach. He's always like that. If you, and whatever the situation is, if you're from Montana, he doesn't like you. If you drive a Ford, he doesn't like you, whatever the case may be. But there's a learning lesson there. There's an opportunity to move through it. And just keep in mind, I'm just going to call it out the way it is. If somebody's an asshole in the sport, everybody knows they're an asshole. If somebody's a jackass, everybody knows they're a jackass. So you don't have to worry about it as much as you think. Do what you got to do. If it gets that bad, there's avenues that are in place for you at the youth level to move. And if it's at the junior level and it gets that bad, well, then there's some choices that can be made. And at the junior level, the good thing about it is that there's trades available, and that is something that can happen from time to time. But I'm not saying jump out there and get traded. I'm saying there's some lessons that can be learned on the situation. So thanks for the question. That was a great question. Let's see if we can jump into some other things here. Tim from Kansas City, thanks for coming on. Dan from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, almost as good as Sheboygan, Michigan, is on. Brendan's on. Says, my son is a 15-year-old, a U15 who played U16 pre-post this season, and now the high school season. His goal is to play D1 hockey in the Ivy League. It seems like his next steps need to be away from high school hockey. What should his next step be? So that's a great question. What should the next step be? You're at the U15, U16 level, and this is across the board generic. Remember, if you think high school hockey is going to move you to the next level, you better be in Minnesota, a few schools in Boston, a few schools in Wisconsin, or a few schools in Detroit. That's it. Okay, and when I say a few, there's only a handful, literally less than a half a dozen in Michigan. There's less than 3 or 4 schools out of the Wisconsin area, a ton of schools in Minnesota because that's their avenue. But if high school hockey is on the agenda, now some areas you have split, and like in the Rochester, New York area, the Western New York area, and mostly from Syracuse over. It's not as much. Downstate doesn't have the same situation. A little bit in the North Country, but you'll see some kids that are high level talent. There's Boston College, Davey France that played played for Syracuse U16 and played on this high school team, and so he played the split season. But he did that because it was fun, not because the high school there was no recruiting, there was no scouting, and nobody at the college ranks really cared if he played high school. It was a good experience for him. It was great for him in high school. It was just a great confidence builder for him. And there's been a ton of kids in the Western New York area that have taken advantage of the ability to play 2 sports at the same time, or 2 teams at the same time with the split seasons. If that split season option is not available in your area, part of this whole thing with Division I hockey is at some point there's a movement. I've said this before. You'll hear it on my videos. You'll hear it in the webinars. At some point, you're going to have to make a move. It might be at age 14. It might be at age 15, 16, or 17 if you're lucky, but there's going to be a move. If you don't know where the talent's at for the levels, if you're staying at the youth level, you're in the Tier 1 elite, you're in the HPHL, you're in the Beast, for the most part, or you're playing in affiliated leagues that have junior channels. So you're playing U18 with a team that has some junior connections, or you're in the same building with the affiliated junior team. So that happens quite a bit. Our program here in Rochester had that. We had a 16, 18, and 2 junior teams above it, so they could move up and stay. But I can tell you, even from a personal standpoint, there's a point where you have to make a decision and sacrifice to leave the market. Unless you're already in Detroit, unless you're already in Toronto, unless you're already in Boston, there's going to be movement at some point if you're going to play at the Division I level, period. It could be a junior, it could be U18, it could be U16. But if you're trying to move up, it's essential. You have to play in a league that gets recruited and scouted. We just did a whole show on this the other day, a week or two ago. I can't remember which week we did it. We did a whole show on just, for those that say, if you play good hockey and you're a good player, they'll find you. It doesn't work that way. Coaches don't work that way. They're not out there, looking for you. They're not out there scouring the back roads like Field of Dreams or what's the movie with the female baseball movie with Tom Hanks and Madonna, where they've got scouts out there in dusty roads looking at the back in the cornfields for players. Hockey doesn't work that way. Hockey coaches go to Blaine to watch as many showcases as they can in Blaine because it's a hub. They go to Detroit to watch the hub. They go to colleges because there's showcases on colleges' campus. So Notre Dame will do showcases. Michigan will do showcases. They go to Boston because it's a hub, okay? They go to Buffalo because it's a hub. That's the way the game works. College coaches, junior coaches take advantage of the odds, and the odds are Tier 1 Elite, HPHL, the Beast. You'll get some USPHL teams in that mix. You'll get some of the NAHL, PHL teams, the UA team that goes up with an NA. The East Coast League, the EHL, has a feeder program. That they're going to go watch those teams first before they watch anybody on the outside of that because they want to be where the talent's at. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Man, we got to get moving because we got a lot of things to talk about. So good question, Brendan. Hope that helped a little bit. DM me if that did not help. So Ken says, if showcases start to happen in 2021, from a goalie standpoint, if you're not getting invites to specific events, which ones should you try to attend? Is there a list somewhere? And how do we know if the money grabs? Okay, first of all, that's a great question, Ken. Okay, you're not on the recruiting. You're not getting recruited. You're not on that list. You're not a high up. The greatest thing you can do in the off season to kickstart yourself is to get into the spring showcases. Spring showcases are chock full of guys that are development people for junior teams. They're assistant coaches for junior teams. They run their spring program, and there's credibility there now that never was there before. Programs like Rock City Elite, Matt Dibble. I'm just going to use him as an example. There's more out there. He's not the king. He's not the bottom, but he's involved with junior hockey. He's connected to college coaches now, and it's all because of his spring program. So what you want to do is you want to be involved with a spring program. You want to play in the Boston showcases. You want to be at the New England Sports Center when there's one of those showcases. You want to be at the Chowder Cup, the Beantown, the USPHL event, whatever it is. There's lots of them there because there's going to be junior coaches there. There's going to be college coaches there. And if they're not there, those guys that are coaching you are connected to all of them. So they're making sure their rosters are being disseminated. They're making sure that the information's out on their players and they're hyping their players. Go on, and if you want to see evidence of that, go on to any of these spring teams that are coached, that are these private enterprises, and follow them on Twitter. You would think that they're all advisors because they're pumping their players all the time. They're promoting their players, congratulating them for when they move up the board. So it's a great question, but get involved in the spring hockey and get involved in spring hockey that's in a hub. You have to play in a hub, and you have to do your homework on where the events are. I mentioned a few. Those aren't the only ones, but those are the tried and true ones because those are the ones that get Division I talent, and it's a trickle-down effect. If there's Division I talent that's at a showcase, that means there's college coaches coming. That means there's Division III talent there. That means that there's going to be Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 junior coaches there too across the board. So that's where I would start with that, Ken. Good question. Dave, you're late. Dave from Colorado, don't know where you're at. You missed the whole show. Brandon says, are prep schools a viable path to D1 hockey, and NEPSAC in particular? Absolutely. Prep is, and I didn't finish this conversation because I started with your channels to move up to Division I hockey and to college hockey. Minnesota high school, Tier 1. Let's just call that the Michigan model. And why we call it the Michigan model? Because that's the biggest hub of Tier 1 Elite HPHL. It's out of the Michigan area. they're the first ones that jumped in and embraced the corporate sponsorship of teams, and that still is a huge hub for the U16, U18 model. Then the East Coast model is prep, and absolutely prep is absolutely a strong, viable option. But the trade-off on that is it's the most expensive option, and a lot of times you have to, at the 9th or 10th grade year, you have to repeat a year, or you have to stay around for an extra year for it to all work for you. A lot of great hockey players end up doing a repeat year at 10th grade, because that's the way the prep school gets them for 4 years. They get, or 3 years, whatever it is, but they do a repeat year. So yes, it's a great option. There's a ton, and we talked about this either last week or the week before. There's a ton that get committed out of the prep programs, and they go to the USHL or BCHL for 1 year of finishing school, because all roads always lead back to juniors. Let's not forget that. If you're a great Minnesota high school player, you're going to play juniors. If you're a great U16, U18 player, you're going to play juniors. If you're a great prep player, you're going to play juniors. Okay, 99% of all those categories end up in junior hockey. And then, now it might only be 1 year for finishing school, like a great prep player coming from a great program might go to the BCHL, might go to the USHL, plays 1 year, and then he's playing Division I college hockey. But that's absolutely a very viable option. And we'll do a whole show on prep schools. We haven't done that in a while. It's about time we do that. So Ken, DM me, and I can help you on getting some information on spring hockey teams. There is no one list. There's some work that needs to be done on that. I can tell you this. If you just jump on some of the names that I threw out earlier and go to the websites there, for example, and I'm not promoting one over another, but let's use the pre-draft showcase out of Boston. Use that as a litmus test. If you pull up there and you look at the past programs that have won and participated and won the event or on the top of the event, you'll see the same names over and over as far as what programs those are, what spring programs those are, and you reach out to them. Now, the only caveat about spring programs are some of these programs run 3 or 4 teams. It's one thing to be on their first or second team. It's another thing to be on their fourth team. Now, if you're very young and you're on the fourth, you're 15 or 16 years old and you're on the fourth team or the third team, and you can see that the teams above you are older kids, pay your dues, move up the ranks that way. But just be careful on that side of it. Not every program out there is completely up and up. It's just like anything in hockey. You just got to make sure you triangulate and you ask the right questions on things. So, Mark from Bloomington checking in. Thanks for checking in. Can you talk a bit about the B stage level, etc.? Mark, clarify that a little bit about what you're talking about as far as the age, because the beast is very, very strong in the mid-teens all the way up until U18. The beast model is working. You see a lot of the beast teams are actually prep players that are doing the same thing that the Western New York kids are doing with split season. They play a few games. This happens in Minnesota with 8 or 10 teams. It doesn't happen a lot in Minnesota. But you'll see the kids that are on these beast teams, they're playing for great prep programs. Then these are little all-star teams that are put together. Not all the beast teams are this way, but many of them are this way. The team out of Rochester, the Rock City Elite team, is all prep players. I don't think there's one kid. If there is a kid from Rochester, Mike Lapani might know the answer to that, but I don't know if there's even a Rochester kid on the roster right now. It's a collection of prep players. Sometimes these teams get into town on a Wednesday. They practice Wednesday, Thursday for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday showcase. That's all they get. They're not pumping out practices like a local, like a Victory Honda or a Little Caesars or a Bell Tire program in the Detroit area where they're putting in 3 or 4 practices for the weekend. It doesn't happen that way with Beast teams all across the board, but still getting great numbers. The Beast has put themselves on the map in the last 2 or 3 years here, and once again statistically, I can't argue against something that's got good results. I didn't think it was going to work at first. I thought it was just going to be another one of those little flash in the pans and then disappear. Doesn't seem to be that way right now, so hopefully that helps. So Mark says he's starting to see some kids from high school prep, kids from Minnesota go to the beach. Yeah, you're seeing a little bit of that. There's such a channel in Minnesota though, that and there's some programs that are so deep you start seeing some kids peel off. But you're all Minnesota high school is Minnesota high school. You're going to see Minnesota high school be great hockey a year in and a year out. It's still the number one avenue to Division I college hockey. It's still the number one avenue to the USHL. But I agree with you. You do see some peeling off to the beast across the board. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Listen, we're going to have to take the other topic and run with it next week. We've already been going at this for close to an hour. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit to see if you got any questions coming in that I haven't answered yet. But I want to give you a teaser about next week. And I've put this off a couple weeks in a row. We just don't have time to do it right. But here's what I want to cover. And let's just see if I can do this right. So what we're going to cover next week is, there it is. So this was out there. I hope I can get this. There we go. It's inside a Scout's Notebook. College Hockey Inc. put this together with, I believe, the Hockey Think Tank. And they put this little sheet together to show you what a scout, what a college coach, what a junior coach, what a U18 coach, what they actually do when they're at games. And we're going to break this down because this was a really good piece. Go to College Hockey Inc. Go to the Hockey Think Tank, their Facebook page. Either one of these, you can pull up the sheet, print it off. It's a good little piece to read, and it's a good little piece, but it's not necessarily complete. And what I mean by that is, it makes it look like this is the only way the world's looked at because they pulled the 8 or 10 assistant coaches and they kind of took and put this together. Remember, College Hockey Inc. is still very, very tied, and so is the Hockey Think Tank to USA Hockey. So it's going to be politically correct. The sheet is politically correct. Loud dad bad. Loud dad bad. Player doesn't move on if dad's loud and dad's mean. Bullshit. If a kid's good, somebody's going to take him. You might not get into the school of your choice because of your dad's attitude, but you're going to be playing. If you're that good, somebody's going to take you. This is the way it is. If anybody tries to tell you that, or if you're on a team and you're waiting for that parent to finally get their comeuppance and you're waiting for somebody to go, nope, your kid's not making it to the next level because you're a jackass. You might be waiting a long time because if the kid's that good, it doesn't matter. The parent doesn't matter. And I've got a story about a NHLer that I'll share when we go through this sheet next week. Yes, it can matter to some college coaches, but there's always a Division I college coach that will take a chance on that. Just like, watch is it Netflix or is it Amazon that does the Last Chance U in football, where they go through the junior college players that all, are, the rogues of the sport. And you see all these guys going to Division I programs, and, some of these guys have really, really challenging backgrounds. Somebody's always going to take a chance on talent. Somebody out there is. Maybe not be what you want to hear as a parent. You might want to think that being poly pure is going to help. Of course it does. But it doesn't mean if there's a really, really talented player that somebody's not going to take a look at him. So hope that helps a little bit on that one. But we'll go over that scouting notebook next week. It's been a wonderful run up to the holidays here. We will not be on next Sunday. It'll be a week from Sunday before we're back on again. I'm in North Carolina. It's going to be very difficult. I might surprise it and try to throw out something, but don't expect it. We're going to be down there for a couple weeks. Everybody, have a great Thanksgiving with you in your room by yourself with your TV dinner, socially distancing from your family. And I get it. You're not going to invite anybody over. You're not going to have any friends over. It's just going to be you sitting in a room. Watch some of the replays. But if you can do me a favor as we go tonight, and thank you so much, and everybody seriously have a happy Thanksgiving. But like and follow our Facebook page if you could. Invite a friend. Share this if you can. If you like these videos and you see something that we're doing, share it. Put it out, post it to somewhere. If you're a youth coach, if you've got the ability to put it out to your organization, please do. Sharing this stuff would be great. Ask somebody to join our discussion group. If you're not in our discussion group, join it. But or write a comment if you can. there's a section on our Facebook page, not the discussion group, where you can put comments if you like and recommend what we're doing. Put a comment on there. That would help a lot. We're at the point now where, we're trying to monetize this a little bit, and anything we can do to get, if I monetize this, I can give away more free tape and I can do the giveaways more. But we need to have that monetization. So anything you can do to help, I sure would appreciate it. And we will see you soon. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you very, very soon.